Now, reviewing new and shiny stuff is all well and good, but for most people, especially young drivers, you just want something that can get you from A to B without a headache. So, let me introduce to you the 2008 VW Polo. Practical, refined, and slow.
Come on, let's get to 70, 60, and there we go.
But unlike earlier versions of this 1.2 litre engine, reliable as well. So, let's give it a whip. My name's Tom, and you're watching Paragon Cars. Let's go. Before we start, please like, subscribe and hit the bell if you'd like us to keep bringing you this content. Also, don't forget to follow our socials for updates on our stock. Links in the description below. Okay, as usual, we're talking engine first. This is the 3-cylinder naturally aspirated 1.2 litre. Makes 70 horsepower and 112 newton meters of torque. Not enough to tickle your senses, but it should at least get the job done, as this car only weighs just over a tonne. Now, before 2007, the Polo was using the previous version of this engine, and unfortunately, they had quite a few timing chain issues. But thankfully, this updated BZG version has been cured, and for the most part, only standard maintenance is required. 0 to 60 is dispatched in around 14 seconds, depending on how nice you want to be to the gearbox. But we're here for the real world performance, aren't we? So let's have a look at the 30 to 70 sprint. Okay, it's by far our slowest car with a time of 13.31 seconds. However, I have to say power delivery is actually quite nice. It's got torque in the right places and seems to have a wide power band for a naturally aspirated engine. Then inside, well, it's a Polo. However, it still has aircon, a radio and some cup holders with grippy bits, so essentials are actually covered. If you want to modernise the interior, you can even get new head units or adapters that get you things like Bluetooth audio as well, so not bad really. And actually more on that, as to me, it's worth it as the speaker system in this is surprisingly good for a little car. What isn't surprising for a small car though is rear legroom. It's just, well, not enough really. Headroom is okay though, so if you sit directly upright you can just about get comfortable. For myself, I'd be happy doing about 45 minutes back here. Then the boot, it's a nice size and shape for a weekly shop or even a weekend away, and with the ability to fold the seats down, you'll be surprised just how much can fit in here. The only annoying thing about folding the seats down though is that you have to move the front row seats forward first. Anyway, let's get driving and see how this little Polo holds up.
One last time. See what I mean? So aggressive! It's just ridiculous. Let's get a bit of noise through here. Oh, that's meaty, isn't it? That is meaty. Right, we haven't got much time to do this one, but I'm going to try my best. This is like your typical first-time buyer's kind of car, so it's going to be interesting to see if it's still up to the job of getting you to where you need to go. Driving around town, the naturally aspirated 1.2 litre engine this car has is pretty decent actually. You know, it's got enough low-down torque to sort of get you up to 30 miles an hour quick enough. Suspension on older cars is, it's there. Ride comfort is not bad actually. I mean, it prioritises comfort over any kind of feel for the chassis. And the same goes with the steering, you know. Turning the wheel, it's just kind of, it does its job. That's all it needs to do. But everything works. Clutch is actually really nice in this old Polo. Obviously if you change them, you know, they're going to feel new anyway, but gearbox is nice and snappy still. Yeah, there is nothing to complain about there. Brakes are nice. I mean, it doesn't feel too dissimilar to a newer Polo, really. The only thing that obviously feels very different is the steering and like the suspension setup. Like, it feels much more like loose in a way, although that could just be because the car's old rather than, you know, the car actually not being that good from when it was new. But, you know, you kind of have to guess where the car's going to go a little bit. You kind of do that little thing with the steering wheel where you're kind of trying to find out where it's going. But for a little town cruiser, it is not a bad little engine. And in terms of parking, it's a Polo, so obviously it's very good. Chuck it in reverse, no parking sensors, we don't need any of that kind of stuff. You've got actually not as much steering lock as I thought, but if you're good at parking and you're used to the car, you can obviously get in the space in one go. And then, of course, once you're in the space, it's very easy to get out the car, even for this 3-door, as I will show you once I'm in the space. There you go, still got plenty of room. Not bad, eh? So far, actually a fairly relaxing car to drive. It's not bad. Coming out of junctions, you do have to be a little bit patient, as it's a manual and it's got no turbo, so you're kind of just, you know, being smoother with the car. It's not electric and it's certainly not a dual clutch. In terms of MPG, I couldn't actually figure out how to get that on the odometer. I don't know if you actually can. I'm sure someone will enlighten me in the comments. But online it says minimum on the motorway you're going to get 38, and from my experience in a newer Seat Ibiza with a fairly similar engine, actually, that was pretty much the case. You got sort of like just over 40 miles per gallon, and you think, well, it's a small engine on a light car, why isn't it doing better than that? That's because it's only got a 5-speed gearbox, so you're sitting at like over 3,000 RPM when you are on the motorway. And the thing is, with a small engine, it's having to work a lot harder to get the car moving in all circumstances. So it's a little bit more expensive to run than you might think, but it's not going to break the bank. If you're driving around town, it's brilliant, however, because you get that like over 40 mpg figure everywhere. So if you're just sitting at 30 miles an hour all the time, you're sitting at lower revs and the car's not really trying that hard. That's why having a small engine and a light car and a manual gearbox is pretty good. Right, before we get on the motorway, let's have a quick taste of the handling round a roundabout. Okay then, sports mode, engaged I suppose. See what this little Polo is like. Hard on the brakes, yes, brakes are good. Give it a sort of heel toe. Let's go from second. Skoda's racing us for some reason. Foot down. And it's not bad. It's actually not bad. Once you rev it out, it's got a good amount of performance. And listen to this. It sounds quite good, doesn't it? Has a nice, like, thrum to it. Anyway, let's now get on the motorway and see what a, what is it, 15-year-old car is like. So far though, it's really not that bad. Okay, we're just coming on to the motorway now, and I just want to show you a little bit of acceleration from like third gear. So put your foot down now, 30, 40, that's 50, and that's 60. It's not that bad, you know. You can get up to speed quick enough, is what I would say. Right, let's see what it's like on the motorway then. In terms of visibility, it's pretty good. Being the 3-door, you've got nice big windows, skinny A pillars and B pillars, because safety regulations weren't as stringent back then. So yeah, at least you get better visibility out of the car. Then steering is, it's there. It's quite vague. You do have to correct the car on the odd occasion, but it does the job. One thing you do have to do though is if you want to change lanes, you got to downshift And my foot is flat to the floor now. In fourth. There's 60. Still going. Still going. And there's 70. But it just about keeps up with the faster motorway traffic. No cruise control, anything like that. So you are actively driving the car at all times, which is not necessarily a bad thing if you enjoy driving like I do. Things like road noise and wind noise, we're riding on fairly small wheels, which actually means there's less road noise than a car with big wheels, which is pretty neat. So yeah, it's actually not that loud in here. Something like an older Fiesta is noticeably louder. But you know, this has always been the sort of premium first hatchback, hasn't it really? I have to say, so far, I'm pretty pleased with this thing. It's genuinely not that bad. In fact, anything, it's pretty good, really. Alright, I'm gonna see how much fuel I use doing 15 miles on the motorway at as close to 70 miles an hour as I can get. Although it is the M25, and as you can see, there's already a sign telling me I'm going to slow down to 50. But yeah, I will see you in around 15 to 20 minutes. I suppose whilst we're in traffic, we can talk about things like quality and comfort. So suspension gets rid of all the bigger bumps on the motorway. You do notice the odd jolt into the cabin if you've got a big pothole, but that's pretty much the same with any car. So yeah, pretty comfortable. Seating position is not bad. You can adjust the rake and height of the steering wheel, so the steering wheel can come nice and close to you and as far away from you as you want. So yeah, driving position is pretty good. You can get fairly comfortable in this car. There's no armrest in the centre console, which is a bit of a shame, as it means you kind of just have to rest your arm on your lap, which is not ideal, but not the end of the world. But yeah, you can get the seat just about low enough for my liking, and the seats themselves, even though they're old, are still fairly comfortable. They don't hold you in that well. It is just a chair to sit in, but they are still pretty comfy. In terms of quality, these older Polos have like a sort of like plastic with a rubberized coating on, almost, which actually feels not that bad. On the dash, you've got soft touch materials, which are still soft. And yeah, everything kind of feels pretty high quality, really. I mean, until you get to like the center console where it's just plastic, and then things like the glove box. Are they damped? Oh, it is damped. There you go. It's damped. And does it have felt lining? No, it doesn't. But it's damped, which is pretty good for a Polo. I mean, if anything, the newer ones are slightly lesser in terms of quality. Then rattles. Are there any rattles? I did notice on rougher surfaces there were a couple of little rattles, but I think that's from this little aftermarket jobby here. I have no idea what that is. It must be like a cassette player or something. But yeah, other than that, there are no rattles to be heard in this thing, and that's pretty impressive for a car that's 15 years old, and it's like the base model Polo as well. So yeah, pretty happy with that. Anyway, let's keep going, and I will see how much fuel I use. I'm currently sort of like a third of a tank. Right, that's our motorway section over, and I've actually barely used any fuel. We've done just over 24 miles in total, and we've gone from a third of a tank to literally just below it, and that's sitting at like around 70 miles an hour, which is not that bad actually. So yeah, over a longer journey, if you drive a little bit slower, obviously you're going to get quite a lot more economy out of it, but at 70 miles an hour you're probably sitting at around sort of like 34 to 38 mpg, just from what I can tell, which is not amazing, but it's not bad for an older car like this. Right, let's take it to a back road and see how it handles, I guess. Right then, in the sportier setting that we have, which is just normal. Let's see what this Polo's like. Foot down. Oh yes. waiting for the front end to follow what I'm telling it to do. Not a lot of front end grip, unfortunately. Can I egg it out of a corner? Oh, tightens its line a little bit. Come on, let's get to 70. 60. Oh, rapid gear change. And there we go, we're at 70. Handling wise, it's soggy, is the way I would describe it. A wet cloth is pretty accurate. Brakes are good though. I mean, they're safe, is what I'd call them, you know, predictable. The car will stop. But the steering is just, it's all over the place. Like, I'm turning the wheel now and I'm kind of having to do this a little bit. Part of that is the tyres, but it's definitely partially the steering rack and the suspension as well. Like, you turn and the car kind of goes, I think he's moved the wheel. Yeah, we should probably go around that corner. And eventually it catches up. It's in no hurry, I have to say. I'm surprised at the gear shift though. The gear shift is nice. For like an old car like this, like, it's pretty easy to rev match. And the engine sounds pretty thrummy. Second gear. Let's give it some. Let's touch the brakes. Yeah, there's not even a hint of oversteer in this chassis. It's very much a safe car to drive. It's not like an old Renault Megane where you can sort of keep it on the edge of grip at all times. Or Clio, sorry, I should say. It is very much designed with safety in mind. And for a first car, you know, you're probably going to be buying one of your kids this. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of your priority. Driving around town, it's actually a very safe car. So if you're getting into an accident or anything like that, you're pretty safe, I'd say. It's only on the motorway and stuff where I would really be a little bit worried. You know, especially if you're driving near lorries and stuff. There's just, if you get in a crash in anything like this, pre-2010 is where safety regulations were definitely not where they needed to be. You know, it was only manufacturers like Volvo that were really coming into like properly safe cars sort of after like 2007 onwards. I mean, this is fine for an older hatchback, but if you've got safety in mind, you're going to want to get something newer and a little bigger, but then it's more expensive. So, you know, for a first car, I think it's pretty good. Handling wise, it's predictable-ish. It's safe enough. You know, it's never going to chew you out the side of the road, which is what's important. You know, inexperienced drivers, they tend to do things that aren't that clever, and yeah, can put themselves in a sticky situation, especially with things like understeer and stuff. But yeah, it's not bad. It's really not that bad. Right, let's go down a tighter B road. Okay, down our little B road, foot down. This is where this little Polo is actually quite a bit of fun. Fighting the steering there. Come on, turning to a corner. Ah, rev it out. Yes, very nice. Right, let's see how the suspension deals with a bigger bump like this. Having to slow down a bit. Whoa, I'm glad I did. Felt like part of the bottom of the chassis kind of came away from me a bit there. Downshift into third, hard on the brakes. Whoa. I'm only going 40 miles an hour and it feels like I'm right on the edge. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty slow down there, but it's quite good fun, you know. There's something about, like, driving these older cars not old, but older, and just enjoying them for what they are, you know. You have to like really wring them by the neck to get a lot of performance out of them. And you know, I never once broke the speed limit down there, and I've got a smile on my face just because you're having to like really work the car and work with it as well. So yeah, I think for a first car, or just a car in general, you know, stuff is pretty expensive at the minute. This is still not cheap at the end of the day. You know, I remember sort of like 5-6 years ago, you could pick one of these up for probably under £1,000 for a pretty ropey one, but you could still do it. Nowadays, you need at least 1,500 quid to get a really ropey one. You know, that's a car with a lot of issues. A car like this that's lower mileage for its age, you're looking at least £3,000. At least £3,000. If you want one that's in good condition, like this one is, then it's like 3.5, nearly 4 grand, and that's a lot of money. But fundamentally, this will get you and 3 other mates anywhere you want to go in the country, and that's what it's about. You know, having fun and yeah, just enjoying the car for what it is and getting you to places that you want to go to. So time for a conclusion, I suppose.
So overall, should you buy one of these over something like a Toyota Yaris or a Honda Jazz? Well, yes, I think you should actually. The engine in this later model is a reliable unit, the car itself drives like a bigger vehicle, making you feel cocooned, the insulation is good enough that you're not having to shout to each other on the motorway, and it doesn't make you look like a pensioner like you would in the Toyota or the Honda. Anyway, as always, if you enjoyed this review, give it a like, and why not subscribe, as not only can you see more content like this, you can see everything we have for sale. My name's Tom, and you've been watching Paragon Cars. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.
One thing I do just want to say actually is, to put it in perspective, this 2008 Polo I would actually have over that thing that's in front of me. I really do not get Fiat 500s. The Abarth I get because it's like quite a cool little hot hatch. One of those, they are terrible. Don't buy one of those. They're uncomfortable. The gearbox is okay, yeah, but they're just uncomfortable and they're way too small. You know, I'm 5'11" and my head touches the ceiling. It's just dumb. Buy one of these instead. These are much better. Or buy an old Fiesta or something like that. They're nicer to drive. They're actually quieter on the motorway as well. Overall, pretty good cars.